Okay, so we're ready to start our punch needle action here. And as you recall, I've got my embroidery hoop, I've got my outline of the rainbow drawn here, which is not looking that great, but it's okay. I'll adjust as I go. And I've got my needle threaded. So right before you start here, I would suggest this takes a lot of thread, but you want to pull a lot of thread out of this thing, because I found that when I start having issues with my hoops popping back through the fabric after I've already punched them in, it's because my tension is off, because I don't have enough, or it's like stuck under my leg or something, and so it's pulling wrong. And you need it to be perfectly loose and free to move through the pin as you pick it up and down through the fabric. Okie doke, so here we go. I'm going to follow this outer outline of my rainbow here on this hoop. And when I do my first, I kind of like to grab the thread with my thumbnail just to kind of keep it all sturdy. And also there's a long side of the needle and a short side of the needle, so it kind of makes an oval in the top of the needle. And the way that works best for me is to point the long side of the needle, put it on the bottom, poke it through with kind of that open oval looking up at me, and then I poke it through at an angle. Okay, and you go all the way through and pull straight back out. And then you move just a stitch and pull back out. Move, pull straight back out. And that's really all there is to it. I found that when I do this, it's better to just keep going and not try to stop in the middle, because that's when I start screwing stuff up. But I do want to show you what this looks like. So I'm going to pull this stitch out and kind of grab it with my thumbnail so that I can move that over and flip it and show you. So you can see here, you can see the beginnings of my little rainbow are just 5 little loops of fabric. And this is to me, the craziest part of all this is how precarious this all is. If I just pulled on either end of this, the whole thing would come right out. So the good news there is when you mess up, it's very easy to rip it out and start over, but it just makes me kind of nervous just sitting here with this whole thing one tug away from completely unraveling. But I'll show you one that I've finished. The first row is probably the hardest, and I struggle the most with having to, noticing that a few didn't stick and having to go back and put some more in. But once you get where it's really dense, as you can see here, I did this little flower. I started by outlining the flower, and that was a little bit tough. But as you start going in next to yourself, maybe it's all in my head, but it seems like the loops, when there's already loops that you're going in next to, it tends to kind of hold the next loop better. As you're packing stuff in, there's just more friction on the front to hold the loops, and so to me it gets easier, but again, maybe that's in my head. But yeah, you can see here the finished product, and it's just a dense little set of loops of fabric. So I should have pointed this out. You work from the back, so all your work is done here, and actually the product is on the other side. Okie doke. So I'm going to keep going just a little bit more here and kind of show you how I go back next to my first row of stitches. So I'm not going to go all the way around this first band of the rainbow, but I'll just do a few inches here. One other thing to point out is, I don't know what that measurement is. It's maybe 1/8 of an inch. Smaller stitches will give you denser loops, and bigger stitches will give you less dense loops. So depending on what look you're going for, you either want to put the stitches really close together, or you can space them out a little more if you're not needing it to be so dense. I like a denser look. I don't like there being gaps in the loops. I like it being completely filled in. So I try to do as small of stitches as I can bear to do, because smaller stitches take more time. Okay, so there I've got, I don't know, close to 2 inches. If I flip it over, you can see now. Here's what I was talking about. And pull that back out. Okay, so now you can see here when I flipped over, there are a couple spots where my stitches started to pull out. So when I go back by there, I'm going to have to come back in and replace those. But like I was saying, once you get kind of the first row down, I seem to struggle with that a lot less. Like I just don't have that happen very much anymore. But pretending that I got all the way around this rainbow, I come back here and just start going back right next door to my previous stitches. You can kind of notice I've found that this angle, not entering the fabric kind of at a perpendicular angle, but going in at maybe a 45-degree angle. Again, don't know what I'm doing. I'm self-taught here, but it seems to work better for me. Okay. So now I'm almost back down to where I started, and we'll flip it over and see how it's looking. Okay, grab it, my nail. This is, I only do this just to stop it, so I give myself slack so I can set the pin down and flip it over without yanking on it. So see, I haven't even fixed the part that didn't take on that first row, and it already looks a lot better because it just starts to kind of get lost in the forest of all the loops. So by the end of this, I will have a lovely rainbow with 4 different colors and kind of unconventional rainbow colors. And that's really all there is to it. So there are endless different designs that you could do. Flowers are pretty popular. I love my little flower here. Letters are pretty easy because they're easy to draw. Like, you don't have to be an artist. This was probably borderline on my artiste skills. Leaves and kind of plants are easy to do and pretty fast. I'll show you. I bought this one at a craft fair, and I kind of used it to do my first rows, and I love it. And I think soon I'm going to do one that looks kind of like this and this, which is some kind of like this leaf, and then I don't know what you call this, stick with berries on the end, but I'll show you on the back how simple they are. So this green bushy fern or whatever it is just there's like a 1 string of dark green through the middle, and then a light and a dark green on each of these little leaves. That's all there is to it. So you can imagine that you could probably whip that out in like 10 minutes. So pretty simple, pretty fun. Hey baby, Mom's making a video. Just a sec, okay? So that's all there is to it, and now I gotta go fix Iron Man's leg. So I hope that helps, and let me know if you have any questions.